von Fundamentalismen auf Frauenrechte. Wir fordern das Ende der Armut. Of course, stop violence against women and girls. Religiöse und kulturelle Fundamentalismen nennen niemals Frauenrechtsverletzungen, Rechtsgleichheit, mitschreiben.
This is a very important moment in the history of human rights. When the Vienna World Conference for Human Rights happened 20 years ago in this very city, we should not forget that actually the conference was on the brink of disaster because the regional conferences, which were the preparatory conferences, didn't go well. In fact, many governments were pulling back in terms of human rights commitments. The Cold War had just finished, but the peace dividends and the human rights dividends were melting, or maybe they were never there. So there was, the mood was a little bit down. And in fact, I was looking at the Amnesty International press release before the Vienna conference, and it was very down. It was saying that it's a slap on the face of humanity, this conference. So, given that starting point, I think today when we look back, we look at this conference actually as a very positive milestone in the trajectory of human rights globally. In this conference, we actually ended up establishing the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, which, as you know, has done amazing work. We ended up really giving a big boost for women's rights, and the Special Rapporteur for Violence Against Women was created after this meeting. I think we established that indivisibility of human rights is so important for all people all over the world. And I think also it gave a primacy of place for civil society and NGOs. So I think looking back, it's very important. So I'm really pleased that Amnesty International is going to be giving a key address in the very opening session. So I'm looking forward to it. If I just focus on women's rights, on the one hand, we've seen amazing progress. But on the other hand, as you see with the demonstration behind me as we speak, there have been many governments who have been pulling in the reverse direction. Even in the most recent Commission on Status of Women meetings, you could see there's a constant effort from some governments to actually pull back from previous commitments. We have to remember that after the Vienna conference, that gave a big impetus for Beijing and for the Cairo conferences to happen. But it's at the end of the day, for ordinary people, it's not about conferences and meetings. It's about implementation and delivery. And here we have big gaps as we speak. See, governments by their nature will make promises and never keep them. So it's for movements and human rights organizations and activists to hold governments to account. So the role of Amnesty International over the decades, even for the Vienna conference, when it was in the brink of disaster, it was Amnesty International and activists across the world who pushed the governments to finally deliver something meaningful. So we are exactly in the same situation. Eternal vigilance, they say, is the price of liberty. So it's absolutely essential for us to keep the pressure, to keep our eyes sharply focused and shine the light.
Human rights, it says everything. Like human rights has to be like the main thing.
20 years ago, more than 7,000 participants gathered for the World Conference for Human Rights. Many of you were there, as was I, representing a women's activist group.
For all human rights beings.
And how was the result? Very.
September in New York, in the margins of the UN General Assembly Ministerial Week, to initiate a systematic follow-up.
So there were the anticipations, the new world that we were going to create. And it was in this period,
At that time, the Russian Federation had just emerged on the
Yesterday they've been suspended, and that's Russia. But again, when you think of the way in which civil society organizations are treated and human rights defenders are treated, you think about countries like China, Russia, or Saudi Arabia. But actually, this is happening in countries which you think are democratic, and it's not actually very different in many of these places.